So you mentioned something about linguistics, which
Yeah.
I didn't know that you study linguistics, which makes total sense. Like you're speaking a whole new language in technology.
Yes.
Did you see that? Did you see that? That your brain just connected, you learned this whole new language. Do you want to talk a little bit more about linguistics and learning a new language in technology?
Yeah. Actually, because it's very on brand with, I think, or like on the right path of what people listening to this podcast want to know. Yeah. I remember my first week in San Francisco, I started watching the show Silicon Valley. And I just didn't understand what they were saying. It wasn't funny to me. And then after a year, I went back and rewatched it and I was like doubling over because you're right. Like, and I think I heard you say this earlier. You're like, I speak 4 languages, English, Portuguese,
Yeah.
Spanish, and I think tech. I think you like cloud is
Yes,
another
sir.
language. 100, yeah. Okay. I
Yes.
got that. So basically, when I got to Zendesk as an associate SC, Zendesk was still in this stage where they were selling. And this is really important for so many people who are like in the breaking into tech sales stage. And maybe you're going to work for one of these like big SaaS platforms. Is it seems easy from the front end. Like all of these SaaS applications that came up during the 2010s, they were all built to look like Airbnb, but for business users, which if you were around in the early 2000s, like I didn't know this because I was like still in high school, but enterprise software used to be a nightmare. It used to be like really complicated to use. It was not pretty to look at. Everything was like built by Microsoft. No shade to Microsoft, but anyway. So basically, I got hired at Zendesk at a point where there were still like we were selling apps. We were selling like chat. We were selling an email ticketing solution. It was easy to talk about and demo without having to have technical knowledge. But then, and this is super common in the tech industry, it's called mergers and acquisitions and
Mm,
moving up market. So, what do you need to do? You need to go from having an app that just does a thing to having a platform that your customers can build on and extend and customize because any big enterprise doesn't want what you have out of the box. Actually, at a certain point, quite quickly in your sales career, you will go from selling like a point solution to selling the value of how easy it is to plug your tool into all the other
mm,
stuff that they use on the back end.
integrations, yeah.
Integrations, baby, that's where it is. Like if you can't integrate, what's the point? Obviously there are point solutions, but when you're selling Oracle, Zendesk, HubSpot, Salesforce, like GitHub, any developer tool, like you've got to plug in. So within the first like 10 months I was at Zendesk, we launched this big platform and then our next like 6 acquisitions, which happened very quickly, were all developer tools, like a unified messaging API. And I can't remember all the other ones, but it was like 6 tools, one after the other. That meant I was no longer I was no longer selling to business buyers. I was selling to developers. And it changed the entire conversation. And all of a sudden I'm going from like, you can use the email ticketing solution to like, actually, we have an event bridge integration with AWS and it doesn't matter what cloud you're on, but you can, like every jargon in the world. So
Mhm.
tried to get on top of that by learning to code very quickly. I was like, this is not for me. This
Oh,
is super
nice.
boring. And actually one of my current students, she did like a full stack developer boot camp. But as a customer success manager, she was like, actually, this didn't really help me because I can't talk about anything. I can write a line of
Mhm,
code, but when you're in the customer facing universe, your job is to talk about technology as a trusted advisor, consult with people, tell them your insights, opinions. You have to be able to talk about it. So I said, okay, I studied linguistics. I've learned French. I've learned Spanish. How did I do that? Well, I learned, I got historical context to these countries. I learned vocabulary words. I learned some grammar. I learned how to say things. And then what do? You get to go into the streets and practice speaking with native speakers. And like that's the same approach that I took to building technical fluency
wow.
in tech was like learning about the tech industry, which gives you all this context and kind of starts sprinkling in all these technical terms and concepts so you don't just like hear them in a vacuum because that's very intimidating. So then you have your context that gives you concepts. And then now that you understand these things, you can actually be credible and start providing commentary and being more than just like, I'm a rep for this company and like, hey, here's what's going on in the CRM world and also what's
Mm,
going on in the cloud and data center world that's going to impact your overall business. So it really allows you to elevate the conversation, which is what you get told to do every single day, but they only give you product training.